Just let Stephen clear his voice there before I unmute him. Before we dive right into this, guys, you know.
Aye.
Well, hello and welcome into this Tuesday's entertainment news. I had to think twice here. It is Tuesday because we didn't want to talk last. Well, I didn't want to do any talking last night. I wasn't in a good place mentally last night, Stephen, with certain issues. And I'm still not in a good place mentally today with issues with this here football club. But Stephen, we're in a better place now, and we're here to discuss a whole host of interesting stuff in regards to James Paul McCartney. I'm just going to keep calling him James Paul McCartney because that is his name.
Yeah.
Paul McCharmley. And obviously, that's not my words, but that's the words of, I think it was John Lennon.
Yeah.
It said
George Parasol.
George Parasol, Ringo Stone, and Paul McCharmley. Stephen, obviously, documentary, Man on the Run. The rights have been bought by MGM, Amazon MGM. And Stephen, it's going to be fascinating, this. From me, a personal standpoint, it's going to be fascinating for me, educational for me. And I'll delve into that later on, why that's the case. I'm going to throw it over to you, though, Stephen. What is your initial thoughts on this before I butcher bringing up web captures and bringing up the article itself?
Yeah, I mean, John, there's many documentaries out there on McCartney and from different periods of his career, and what a career as well, over 6 decades worth of work there, a body of work. But this is the one that ashamedly, I have to admit, that I don't really know too much about, other than sort of skimming the surface in terms of obviously the sort of post-Beatle reaction to the split, his infighting with the other 3 Beatles. I know all that obviously from just reading books on the Beatles, but this is all about McCartney. This is all about Linda. It's all about McCartney, the album. It's all about Ram. It's all about, picking up the pieces and starting over, and this is what intrigues me about this, because, for us as audience members, and you can probably include Paul McCartney in this as well now, we can all look back on what happened and where he came, from 1970 onwards. But back in 1970, he was in a hell of a place in terms of friendships broken, relationships broken, didn't have a band, and to be in the biggest band in the world and then go from that to nothing, and retreat back to your farm in Scotland. It's an intriguing, it's an interesting period in this man's life that I want to really delve into in this documentary. I want to hear it from the man himself, and I want to obviously see, I know there's lots of videos. If you look at on YouTube, you'll see there's a lot of stuff on Kintyre, on the farm.
I've seen he's been well documented, to be fair to him, his life. I think with Linda being a photographer, I'm pretty sure she was a photographer from the New York scene, wasn't she? And she was obviously heavily involved in a lot of bands and whatnot, and that's probably how she, I mean, I'm saying probably, I know that's how she got to know Paul. I know that because I read his fucking autobiography. You're John. Yeah. You're talking like that's probably,
Bag of Nails, I think, as well they met,
Yeah, so, I mean, his life throughout that period after meeting Linda and obviously settling down and marrying her, I mean, you compare that to John, for instance, and it's night and day, Stephen. John went off, Lennon went off the radar completely once he left the British Isles and went over to New York. I mean, he was on late night chat shows and whatnot initially, but he disappeared for a long time and you've barely seen him. I mean, the footage of that guy was like fucking Scarlet Pimpernel. You get the odd thing, he'd appear at an awards ceremony dressed in a red leotard or something like that, and leather leotard, or jumpsuit, whatever it was. I don't think it was a leotard. But you compare that to Macca. Macca's, you search him up and some of the images, man, some of the photographs. I've not seen the videos, to be honest. I've seen the stuff with him obviously reprimanding, I think, photographers and press, people coming in to intrude in his life, and he basically tells them to fuck off, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, very documented, so it doesn't surprise me that they're going down this route, and they'll probably get the blessing from Macca himself and a whole host of footage to mine off of. But sorry, Stephen, I interjected there.
No, I was just going to say, John, in terms of skimming the surface over this period, it would sort of give you one-liners of his state of mind on Parkinson or whatever, talking about that he hit the bottle. And it was Linda that had to tell him, you have to wise up, you're a talented man, you need to get back on the saddle and make music again, and it's a very hard thing to do because, he said it himself that you could never top what had already came in terms of being in the Beatles. But I think once you get past that and say, well, there's still music to be made, and we just have to, start from scratch again. And that's what they did. I think they played in a lot of colleges and universities. Was the sort of first tour for the him and some of the session musicians at the time. But also, just that collaboration with Linda as well intrigues me. The Ram album, I think it was the only album that they collaborated on. It's a fine album, John. We've both listened to it recently, and just everything about it. I mean, his state of mind. I really want to. I want to understand that more. Because we know that. Just hearing things from the other Beatles members, particularly John, I think Paul was starting to believe a lot of that it wasn't good enough, and
which is wild.
It's tragic, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in. The music side will take care of itself. We know that's going to be quality. We know it's going to be. Hopefully, they've got the rights to the music. I think they have. Hopefully, but it's just that's what I really I want to see. I want to understand the man more in that period. Because the Beatles Anthology is coming out, in November, and there's a cut-off point of that story ends at some point. It's this bit afterwards. I've seen it from Lennon, because you and I are both Lennon fans, John, over the other three, I suppose, but that doesn't mean we don't love the other three, we do. But I've never really had that focus on Paul. I think Band on the Run and then onwards from that in the 70s was more a focus for me, but those first couple of years, I didn't really bother about. I was more interested in what Lennon was doing at Ascot and Tittenhurst Park and that kind of thing, and George with his All Things Must Pass period. So this is, for me, is just came at the right time, because I'm right back into listening to McCartney's first album and Ram. So this is this period.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, I've always loved McCartney, to be fair. The actual album McCartney. Obviously, I love Paul as well. Ram was a weird one for me. I stayed clear of Ram for a long time. I don't know what it was. It's just something I had in my mind. Like you said, Stephen, I'm more of a Lennon man as well. And just the way that he kind of spoke disparagingly about Paul post-Beatles, I just assumed it wasn't to the level. But having listened to it, Stephen, fairly recently, there is a lot of good tunes in there. And you've got the classic melodies that are associated with Paul. They're just brilliant little pieces of music. It's almost more experimental, Stephen, in a strange way. He's doing things that are a little bit off-piste. But then Macca, to be fair, was always like that. Him and Lennon's always the guy that you think of when you think of avant-garde. You think of him shoveling fucking spaghetti onto a fat woman's plate and Magical Mystery Tour. You don't think of Paul, but Paul was doing it as well. They were both pushing the boundaries. So, I mean, that's always something that was close to his heart. But the McCartney album in particular, Stephen, it always fascinated me because you can hear the clear bleeding through of Abbey Road into his solo stuff. I think of Maybe I'm Amazed, the bass and the guitar work. You can hear You Never Give Me Your Money and elements of the medley on the second half of Abbey Road with the guitar playing. I can't say definitively that Paul played the guitar parts, but I know him, George and Ringo in particular were more sort of hands-on with Abbey Road, because John was up in Scotland after a car crash, wasn't he? For a lot of that, and he had to come in and overdub
parts of the album,
So I know he was more hands-on, Macca, and you can definitely hear elements of Abbey Road. So it's just fascinating seeing him going out on his own and experimenting, and you can hear his sound. There's things that are reminiscent of the Beatles and whatnot. But Stephen, I'm like you, man. This is going to be, I mean, I've read his autobiography, so I know a lot about him. I know what he was up to. Obviously, I know on a superficial level he was in a dark place post-Beatles, and there was all the suing and legal stuff with Klein and the other Beatles members. I don't know half as much about Paul in his solo career, certainly in the early 70s into mid-70s, as I do about Lennon. because we've seen the Imagine documentary, we've seen all of the stuff with Lennon. You've got to see behind the veil. Him making an album, you almost feel like you're in the house with him. It's a fucking great documentary. I'll just love watching it. You've got George popping in. You've got the bum staying on his estate coming in. You get to see his personality. You get to see the explosiveness of him lashing out at a producer who's changing the reels in a fucking take. Yeah, and then he's losing his shit with the same guy because he keeps selecting the wrong part of what was it again? Oh, Yoko, yep. And it's just, that's a fascinating insight into Lennon the man, Lennon the musician.
What's the matter with you, Philip?
What's the matter with you, Philip? I would not like to cross John. I always maintain I'd love to have went out on a night out with that guy. What was his drink, Stephen? Brandy?
Brandy Alexander.
Brandy Alexander. I think I would have enjoyed a night out with that guy. It'd have been fucking phenomenal. But he's not a guy you want to cross. People have an image in their mind of John as being this sort of angelic voice for peace, and he was, to be fair, wearing white suits and dancing about, but he had a fucking nasty streak. This is a guy who beat the living shit out of people in Liverpool. The guy was a scouser, working class scouser, hard as nails, man. Keith Richards said it best when he said, I'd much rather, no, I think it was Liam Gallagher said he'd rather get the shit kicked out of him with a guy like Keith than John wearing these sort of disability glasses or whatever the fuck they were called, NHS prescription glasses, and these white suits and fur coats. But anyway, that's enough of John. We're not talking about John, but we are, because they're kind of interlinked. That's the aspect I want to see, Stephen, with this documentary. I want to see warts and all. I don't want to see this sanitised, clinical look at it. I want to see what was happening with Paul in this time period, how the criticism of John, his sort of brother, who he'd been on this incredible journey with for over a decade, how that impacted him. Like you said, Stephen, he started believing it. And the back and forth messages to each other through their albums, Ram, obviously Imagine, you see Crippled Inside and things like that, How Do You Sleep, John retorting. I want to see the side of Paul, because I'm a John man.
John, that's an important part, is that, you know, that people do seem to focus more on John's nastiness and How Do You Sleep. It's actually a very good song musically, but people seem to forget that it was a reply to too many people from the Ram album. So I mean, there was a lot of that going on, wasn't there, between the two of them at that point, you know. And this is the thing, that this is like the missing jigsaw piece for me, this documentary coming out, because I like to look at these guys' lives as a whole. I don't segment them and go and focus on the negative all the time. You know, when you look at, there was an interview that came out in the early 70s, and they were talking about How Do You Sleep. It was John and Yoko on a chat show, and the audience members were asking questions, and he said something along the lines of, you know, him and I are past that. In fact, we only had dinner, you know, a couple of months after that song came out. So they moved past it very quickly, but there's just people that cling on to these things for the last 50 years and think that this was the relationship, how it was and how it always was, you know, in that period. But they got past that, you know, and I'm sure it will be, I'm hoping that they'll touch on it in this documentary. I want to see it from Paul's side. I want to understand what that meant to him when he first heard those songs. I don't know if they'll cover that or not. I think it's more about his music rather than anything else, but you never know. I just want to get into this man's head, you know, in 1970, in 1972, or whatever it was, and really just understand. I'd like to see
Stephen explore more. I don't think it will. I think it will be that specific period, because they're very clear it's exploring his creative rebirth after the Beatles breakup. I'd like to see it merging out into the sort of Lost Weekend, where he starts making contact again with John in some way, and then into the later 70s.
I doubt it, John, because it's not really about that, is it? But no. I mean, I would like to see him talk about that. He has spoke about reaching out to John to reunite Yoko and all that, but no, I'm in this for Paul. I'm not in it for John. This is all about Paul and Paul and Linda, I should say, you know, and the family, and just I want to see more about his retreat in Scotland as well, you know, because obviously we're both Scottish, and it's interesting to know that he purchased that, I think, when he was still with Jane Asher,
Yeah.
I think it was Jane Asher that talked him into purchasing the farm. It wasn't Linda. He already had it at that point. But she fell in love with Scotland. He always loved Scotland anyway. But it's interesting for someone who came from... where was she from again?
Linda?
It was Arizona, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because did they not have a little place, a little humble place out in the desert?
I think it was Tucson, wasn't it? Was it Tucson, Arizona?
Yeah, because they had a little
I can't
place
remember, but maybe I'm misremembering.
I think I don't know exactly where she's from. I'd have to search it up, Stephen, to be honest with you. I'll quickly do that. McCartney.
Yeah. Maybe I'm crossing the wire.
No, she was from New York. She died in Tucson.
Oh, I see.
She was from New York.
Had a place then, yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember, I think there was a little place they had. He had a little humble place, I'm pretty sure. She was
very much a horse lover as well. And you see great footage of both of them riding their horses. I think that is in Scotland, to be fair. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just things like that. Paul buying his dad a racehorse as well. Things like that. You know, it's just little things that you don't really...
Stephen, you want to see him getting humanised, because, I mean, even though he is humanised to an extent, there is something standoffish about Paul. I mean, he's a strange one. It just says it's heavily documented, the guy, in terms of what he was doing with photographs and little home videos and whatnot, but the actual person himself, I still maintain he's a lot more standoffish than maybe, I mean, was John standoffish? I don't know. I don't know any of them personally, to be fair.
He was, John, you've got to remember, John got his bollocks out for the world. Exactly. I don't think he was standoffish. You know, he definitely wasn't.
And he told his story through song, Stephen. It was very open.
Yeah, very open.
Went through that scream therapy stuff, didn't he? And he explored that in the Plastic Ono Band. Whereas Paul has always been renowned to obviously winding up George and whatnot as well, about exploring his stuff through fictional characters. He'll dance around fucking hoops and whatnot to try and get to his point. And he'll not really... I mean, he kind of did it with Penny Lane, but even that was sanitised.
Well, he did it with Yesterday as well.
Yeah,
and Let It Be, you know, about his mother. But you're right, I don't think there's a sort of long way around it with him. I'm not saying he beats around the bush or anything like that, but he's not as direct as, say, Lennon, talking about Primal Scream or Instant Karma or Mother or whatever, you know.
I mean, Lennon was always doing it, wasn't he? Even in the Beatles, you think of Julia and songs like that, and Help back in the heyday. He's literally singing about, I'm fucking need help here. I'm drowning.
Yeah.
Somebody help me.
I think that's what made them special, John. They all had different writing styles. It's not to say that Paul's style was weaker or any more less. You know, it definitely wasn't. You know, that was his style of writing, and a lot of people like that, you know, including myself and you, John. And I think, you know, I think that's what made them intriguing, the different styles of writing. George had a different one altogether again, you know. His was more spiritual and more about the meaning of life, you know, in the sort of solo career. But I think in terms of obviously Ringo, he had a niche as well, you know, in his solo career as well.
Yeah.
But Paul's, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can tell is written for Linda as well, you know, in those early albums, and that's probably as open as he'll be, you know. But no, I'm looking forward to just seeing this, because I'm like you as well, John. I don't know too much about the man. I know about the artist more than I know about the man.
Yeah.
And
that's why this is important, Stephen, what they say in this article. Not only is it a collaboration, a partnership between McCartney, Universal and Amazon, but he is going to provide commentary, McCartney himself, which is important, because you don't want it just being stock footage, archive footage, music, incidental, or the actual music itself, and then he's disconnected from it and it's been told from a third person perspective. You want to get into his mindset, you want to explore exactly where he was in that time, and only the guy himself can deliver that. And we've kind of seen him doing that, obviously, to an extent in Anthology, but also that other great sort of documentary. It was fucking semi-black and white, if I recall correctly.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, where he broke down the music. So
I'm trying to remember the producer's name. Rick. Can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was on.
So we know he's very good at breaking down and talking. And I know there's all this joking about Fall and Billy Campbell and all this nonsense. But that was definitely Fall. If there's such a thing as Paul and Fall, and I don't believe there is, by the way, looking at photos for the thumbnail, it's the same fucking guy. Behave yourself. Look at that thumbnail for this video and tell me that's not Paul McCartney. You're having a laugh. We know that he's good at it. We know that he's good at doing it. That's my one concern, though. I'm glad that he's going to be involved in commentary. But there's always this degree of rewriting history with Paul in the last few years, and I just don't want to see him taking liberties.
I don't mind when he's doing it to himself, though, John.
Yeah, but if he's taking liberties, maybe talking about other members of the Beatles, and they're not really there to... Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that, to be fair. He wouldn't. So, I mean, I'm really intrigued. I don't know much about the people involved. It's Academy Award winner Morgan Neville. I would have to literally search him up to find out who this fucking guy is. I'm not going to lie. We've seen great documentaries over the years from Scorsese and Ron Howard. So, I mean, I know that it can be done. It can be done well. I don't know this guy's credentials, though. So I'd have to look and see if this is something he's actually worked on before. Has he worked in documentary? I mean, fucking Academy Award for Best Documentary, so... Yeah,
I was going to say, John, because I was watching, it was like a preview for this actual show before I came on, and I noticed that the man has got credentials. Academy Award, you certainly have, but... Yeah, I mean, I think McCartney, if he's collaborating, he wants to make sure he's got the best team that are putting this together because it's representing him. He doesn't want to be seen with some, 2-bit... producer or director.
And he's loaded as well, Stephen. He's got all the money in the world, so he can definitely attract people in, the best, to tell a story, and that's what you want, ultimately. Yeah, I mean, he's worked in fucking so many, hasn't he? Stuff about Johnny Cash.
On that documentary you talked about, it was Rick Rubin. I couldn't remember his name from it. I was thinking of Rick Beato for some reason, but
that's came to my head.
No, he's got one coming up with No Gallagher, by the way.
Beato.
Beato,
Oh,
but
man, I bet you watched it.
321 was a documentary.
Very, very good documentary. So we've seen the guy doing docs before and doing them very well, so we know that he's comfortable in that setting. It's just this particular time period that's the most fascinating to me because he was in a really dark place and just exploring how an individual goes from being in the greatest band of all time, still at their pomp, producing magical music, to not having that.
Yeah.
Not having all the support from Mal Evans and all the other people. I presume they all went off and done their own thing. They weren't hanging around 24/7 like they were in the band. Losing that brotherhood, losing that sort of second half in terms of writing. Even in the later days, I'm sure it was more independent.
Well, Mal hung about. He was involved in Instant Karma. I remember him on the video for that, and I'm sure he was sort of plotting about Ascot as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was like fucking the long-term support person, wasn't he, for the lot, and that's why it's so tragic that no one was there for him. He was at his lowest ebb, which is just a whole other thing. I bought you did I not get you a book, Stephen? I actually have to buy that fucking book, by the way.
It's something I'm going to have to do with Mal Evans, the book you got me. Fantastic read. I'll give you it if you've not read it. But it's something I would
from a different perspective.
I would love to do something on this show about Mal because a phenomenal man, and this. All four of them spoke very highly of him throughout that Anthology series as well, and just his presence. He was always there, and his handling of the rooftop concert with the Police was fantastic.
Well, he shot himself, to be fair. He unplugged he switched George's amp off, and George was like, "Fuck you doing, Mal?" Not a chance. He switched it back on. One of my favourite moments in that whole rooftop performance. George's rebellion, and then just back into it. Lennon's looking, and he's like, "Right, we're fucking doing this." And that little thing he does a little improvised. I'm like, yes, get it up them.
Yeah, and Paul was having digs at the Police as well, and the lyrics.
Oh yeah.
So want to call the police on you or whatever it was, I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. Just a great moment in music.
Yeah. So Mal's a fascinating character. So. But Stephen, just exploring Paul and where he was in that time is going to be fascinating. He's in a dark place. I commend him because it'd be much easier for him just to live out his life, what he's got left, and not explore a dark, sort of painful part of his career and his personal life. But he's wanted to go in there and give the story to the world. And again, it just does a brilliant job of further humanising these guys because these guys are like mythical status now. Multi-generational pop rock icons They became part of the furniture in terms of pop culture in the West anyway. I'd say globally. And when you have that, then these people take on mythical, legendary status. So just to release something like this, it humanises and brings it back down.
It's weird because when we look at the Beatles the way we do, from the outside in, there was four guys on the planet that didn't know what it was like to enjoy the Beatles. From our perspective, there was only 4 people that could not enjoy that for that time period, and that was John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Yep.
So it's you forget, that for most of their lives they've been in that spotlight, particularly Paul McCartney. From the age of 20 or whatever it was. So and he's not stopped. And I'm always amazed, what drives him, because in anything you do in life, there comes a point where it becomes a bit of a chore, or it becomes a bit stale, or it becomes a bit boring. With anything, anything that you're sort of into, if you keep doing it. John, yourself playing guitar, sometimes there's periods where you don't pick it up for a while.
Yeah. Less now than before.
Yeah, I mean,
now I'm forcing myself.
Right back into it.
Yeah.
But this man's continuously, for the last 6 decades, produced music, written music in the mainstream. And a commercial, I think I don't know if he's the most successful commercial artist in terms of sales. I think he is.
It helps when you're that good, though.
Well. So,
it helps when you're that good and you're a multi-instrumental. I mean, when you're that fucking good and you're effective, you can be a band. You can go into a studio and basically put a song together, and he did it in Abbey Road. That sort of, that wasn't a documentary, but it was was it a documentary? It was just like a live performance in front of a crowd where he kind of went through the old mellotron or metronome, whatever the hell it's called, the instrument in Strawberry Fields, and he put a song together on the spot, played the bass, played the drums, played the guitar. And I mean, if I had access to his money, I had my own studio, I wouldn't be out that fucking thing, man. I'd be in it if I had his talent, which I haven't, which is the key thing. We kind of said that before we came on. I'm saying he was a great guitarist, like he was fucking gone. I'm like, he's got more talent on the guitar in his 80s
John,
than I'll ever have.
The song "Come and Get It" from Anthology 3. Obviously, that was written and recorded for Badfinger, who was on the Apple label at the time. I was listening to that the other day, the remastered version that's just came out on Anthology 3, and it sounds just as good as it did when it first came out. And just reading the sort of backstory to "Come and Get It," that I think Paul was always early in the studio before the other guys because he lived near, and he went in and he recorded "Come and Get It." He put the drums down, he put the bass down, he put the guitars down, he put the singing down, and gave it to Badfinger and says, "Record it exactly like that, and you will have a hit."
And they did.
Phenomenal.
Can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine having that level of talent? It's just fucking outrageous. I always call back to that Get Back documentary. There's just so many moments, but the moment I recall was just Paul with a half chalice, sort of half pint of beer, just sitting there making absolute magic happen. And then the other moment, I'm sitting on the chair coming up with the bass line to Get Back. The guy is just, people like to pick their favourites, and look, I do prefer Lennon, just because of the sort of raucousness, the rawness to the guy. He's pure rock and roll. But I've had arguments. You've been there, Stephen, when we've been on holiday, and the drink's been flowing, and I'm fucking having arguments about Paul McCartney and just
defending him,
how good the guy is. People like to talk about. I mean, he needs defending, but I'll fucking defend the guy. I'll die in the hill for Paul. So I maintain, despite the fact I prefer John overall, still love the other 3 tremendously. And anything that can humanise this guy and bring a new audience to him, all the better. I think most people on the planet know of Paul McCartney, but if there's just 1% of a fucking specific demographic that don't, and they maybe happen across this and discover him through this, and then reverse engineer and become Beatles fans, fucking magic.
Well, that's what can happen,
That's what it's all about.
I think generations to come, it's all about documenting, and I've said this time and time again. Paul's in his 80s now. He's very much switched on still, which is good. But he's also thinking about his legacy, and making sure that the record's straight in certain things, and particularly things like this, because it is about him. I'm glad he is obviously partaking in this documentary. But John, you mentioned the Get Back sessions and the film, just those sparks of genius coming in, from the Get Back. It's a reaction of George and Ringo at that moment. That must have happened quite a lot. Obviously, they didn't document the other albums, the previous albums, Rubber Soul, Revolver, etc. And those little moments just coming together, I would have loved to have seen documented in video, in film.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't get that, but it does give you a brief glimpse of the sort of process of how Paul McCartney's mind works and how he can put something together just comes from nowhere,
That's potentially what we're going to get here as well.
Yesterday was a dream, wasn't it?
Yeah, he
dreamt
up,
that song, so
sadly I've never woke up with an incredible song like that in my mind. Raging. Guy's nearly 5'11", incredible head of hair, brilliant looks, famous, rich, brilliant musician, voice like an angel, can go low as well, could everything.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to wake up out of his fucking bed and come up with a song like Yesterday on the spot. What are we doing here? But look, I'm glad he gave us it because it's one of my favourites. Still can't play it properly on the guitar. I could play most of it, but still elements I can't quite get down. But I can play Mother Nature's Son and Blackbird, so it's all good. You've got to take the little wins in life. One of my favourites, two of my favourites to play on an acoustic. Stephen, this is coming out potentially in a theatre. It's going to have a select theatres. I suspect it won't come out here. But I would certainly like to go and watch that in a theatre. Like they say here again, the synopsis, it's going to be a more vulnerable look at his post-transformation, or post-Beatles transformation. It's going to show you how he sort of overcomes challenges creating new music to define a new era. So, I mean, that's great. It's got access to unseen footage, rare archival materials. You've got the commentary from Paul. I'm really looking forward to it, man. I like a good documentary. I really like a good music documentary. We've seen so many great ones over the years. Beatles ones, Stones ones, Bob Dylan ones. It can give you a unique look at somebody. I mean, the Bob Dylan one, No Direction Home?
Yeah.
With Scorsese. That was fucking great. You're getting to see little bits, even in Glasgow, where he's coming out is it St Enoch's?
Queen Street, yeah.
Or Queen Street. Yeah. And he's kind of saying cheerio or something like that to the fans. You get to
Scottish
see,
accent,
with a Scottish accent, you get to see a unique look at somebody you probably already know so much about. So it's just a great opportunity for new fans and existing people alike to discover something new about the person. And again, with this, without overdoing it and going on about it again and again and again, it's a really interesting point in the guy's life.
Yeah.
Like, he's going through a really fucking bad time. He's getting attacked left, right and centre. He's his brother in arms, his ex-co-founder of Les Beatles. Well, technically John founded it, and he hired Paul, but we'll give him co-founder.
You'll do.
And obviously the legal disputes and all that, where he's at, he's in a fucking borderline depressive state. He's up in a farm in Scotland. I mean, it's a beautiful place, Scotland, but fucking hell, man, it's not what you expect Paul McCartney to be after the Beatles. You expect him to be maybe, I don't know, jet setting around the world. But just maybe seeing Martha as well. We see his relationship with the fucking dog, Stephen, right down to that. We've seen photographs of him at Cavendish Avenue, I think it is. 7. Can't remember the street name. If it's 7 Cavendish Avenue, then I have to get a fucking life. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to search that up. I want to see his relationship with Martha.
While you're looking that up, though, just going back to obviously Kintyre and
my fucking God, it's 7 Cavendish Avenue.
A lot of people will know Kintyre as Mull of Kintyre. It's Kintyre. Mull is the bottom part. It's a lighthouse. But to get there, you have to go up and come back down. It's a peninsula, so you've got to go up and come back down. So it's a long trek. It takes hours. Yeah. Hours. And if you ever look at a map of Scotland and you look at obviously the biggest island we've got in Scotland's Arran. It's behind Arran, so you can't just get there direct. There is an airport, I think it's for light aircrafts, but it's so isolated. It's unreal, but it's a beautiful place. I think if someone like him in that sort of frenzy of Beatlemania, George Harrison talking about that 6-7 year period of just not having a minute to yourself and waking up and you've got to be famous, and going to sleep and you've got to be famous, and you don't really get time to yourself, and there's no privacy. That's the ideal place after the breakup of the Beatles to go to just get away from it all.
Yeah.
You know, and just sort your mind out, you know. It's a beautiful place.
And staying with a dog, no less. I mean, I've had conversations with absolute randoms when I'm out walking my dog about how important a dog is. If you're going through something little or large or whatever, mental health-wise or whatever, just anything, get out and walk a dog and spending time with a dog is just magical. I'm telling you, it fucking works absolute wonders.
And they know, John.
They do know.
They know when you're down. They can sense it.
So I can totally connect with what he was doing, obviously going with Linda and Martha and whatnot, and just going away and isolating himself. By the way, it was 7 Cavendish Avenue.
Yeah.
That's stalking from another level,
some house,
another dimension. Oh, that's me just flexing my knowledge about Paul and the Beatles. I know the house number in the street.
Which street?
It's a fucking great house, by the way. He still got it. Paid £40,000 back in the 60s for it. An incredible house. That's another thing I loved about Paul, by the way. Getting off on a complete tangent here. The rest of them bought these big sprawling estates, and that's absolutely fine. Tittenhurst and what was the other one?
Friar Park.
Was that George? And obviously Danny Harrison's built another sort of guest house onto the estate. Paul never done that. He never bought estates. He's got a fancy penthouse now in New York, but he just stuck to his humble little 5-story townhouse in London. All worth about fucking £4 million now, but. But the guy,
I think he liked that.
He stayed with Jane.
He liked that lifestyle, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
He liked the London lifestyle. He liked being close to the studio. He liked being close to all the restaurants and pubs.
Yep.
What a life, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can do it, what a life. I mean, I always maintain the closest we've got is the West End over here in Glasgow town. If you can just walk out your house and go straight to a trained out pub or something, have a drink, I mean, that's fucking what it's all about. That's what it's all about, so I can completely understand it. And of course, you see it in the lights of the For You Blue video, where he's walking down casually with his Crombie on, and down into the studio. Guy's out and about in London, heart of London, not getting bothered, nothing. So, fair play, I commend the guy for it. But I'm looking forward to it. Again, Amazon doing a wide variety of content as well. You've got to tip your hat to them, getting involved with this. They're producing fucking just about everything at this moment in time. It's really intriguing. You're getting fucking drama stuff, you're getting Bond, you're getting all these other things, and now they're dropping the Paul McCartney documentary. Giving the people who are perhaps not massive fans of Disney a chance to see something Beatles related, because of course they seem to have a fucking monopoly on Beatles content, which I'm not complaining about. I'm a fan of Disney, so I don't care. But looking forward to it, man. Hopefully it comes out in a theatre. Hopefully it's warts and all. It's not sanitised. We get a really good insight into what made the guy tick in those moments, those sort of dark, vulnerable moments for him. We get to see the human side of him, because for me, he's a little bit sanitised at times, Paul. People think he doesn't swear or nothing. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You've got these absolute sycophants. Paul doesn't swear. Paul doesn't swear. Yeah, he fucking does. We've got video footage of it. We can literally hear clips of it. We're bloody stars, you know. Hey, fuck face. He swears. Talking about clowns. But look forward to it, man. What was your thoughts, though? Unless, Stephen, you've got anything else to say, I'm going to round up.
No, I don't think so, John. But just in terms of, obviously, the Get Back documentary, you started to see the cracks appearing, Paul. You can see the nervousness brewing in them, you know, and you can see elements of it, the nervous laugh, the staring into space. Now there's only 2 of us. You can see it all starting to crumble down, around them. So this is the documentary. It's going to see him.
That's a whole other thing, by the way. Because there was a period from probably 66, 67, when John first dabbled with LSD, obviously with George, and he kind of lost his way, John. John was always the definitive leader. It was Brian Epstein who was the sort of father figure, and he kept them all together. Then he obviously passed away. John was still the sort of leader, the chief of the operation, if you like. Then he kind of went down that rabbit hole and had a crisis of confidence, didn't he? He says he kind of had a personality crisis. And Paul kind of assumed that leadership for a few years, probably from 67 Petals onwards. And you kind of see that starting to sway in 69, 70. Well, 69, Get Back sessions, when George is walking out, they're fighting over digestive biscuits. John's having his great discussion with him over a fucking table, and they're hiding microphones and bowls or whatever the hell it is, pots. You get to hear John talking about that. Basically, you're too forceful. We feel like you're doing this. Discussing that sort of leadership thing. And we see it, Stephen, as well. And little, I don't know if it was ever in the Get Back stuff, but I think there was a video floating about on YouTube where they're talking about doing the rooftop performance. And you kind of see Paul's uncertainty. He can't really look John in the eye, and John's like, come on, look at me, it's me. Yeah. Basically saying, look, nothing's changed here. I'm still your fucking brother. We're still band members. It's me you're talking to.
Yeah.
So you get to see them. Sort of exploration of where he's at. He's a sort of strong figure, then he kind of falls by the wayside and loses his confidence again, Steve. We'll see this in this documentary. An evolution of that, where he is after the Beatles. He's kind of rocked, if you'd like. Because I still think in Get Back, even though he's kind of losing his way, he's still very much steering the fucking ship. We wouldn't have had that album if it wasn't for him. He forced the other three to get off their lazy arses and make some music.
Yes.
Thank God he done it, man. Because some of my favourite stuff, I know it's not the strongest album by any means, Let It Be, and even Abbey Road to an extent, it's got some brilliant songs, but nowhere near Rubber Soul or Revolver, but some of my favourite shits on it come together, something. Get Back, I've Got a Feeling, Don't Let Me Down. I mean, it's like I Me Mine. Some of my favourite Beatles songs, and certainly to play on my casino and whatnot, my favourite stuff that I like to get back and play. So I thank Paul for forcing those lazy fuckers off their arses out to make some music. But I'm done, Steve. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
I'm kaput.
What's your thoughts on this Man on the... By the way, it's a great name as well. Every documentary needs a brilliant name. Man on the Run is a fantastic name for a documentary. Yeah. But that's what makes me think, getting off on a final tangent, we might go into the late 70s, mid to late 70s. Well, no, because Band on the Run was, what, 73?
72, 73, yeah.
So no, it's not. It's just that's still early 70s. So you kind of see him stepping out on his own 2 feet, and then maybe it'll explore Wings, and then it'll maybe wrap it up there. Because if they're saying Man on the Run, they've got to delve into Band on the Run. It's a play on the fucking name. So, I mean, that'll show you him coming full circle again. Uncertainty, and then the end with him getting into another era with a band. Yeah. Wings, the band the Beatles could have been, in the words of Alan Partridge. What's your thoughts though on Man on a Run? You're looking forward to it. It's coming out the 25th of February next year. Limited run in select theatres. Going to be on Prime. It's going to be a big moment again for Beatles fans. We're getting a lot of stuff coming out in the next 6 to 7 months. 6 months. I'm losing track of time here. 5 months. Getting a lot of stuff coming out. Anthology. We had a comment, Stephen, saying, they're overdoing it. No, they're not. Fuck you talking about, son. They're overdoing what? It's 30 years since they're... Right, on the comments. They're overdoing it with too much Beatles stuff. They're ripping it now. Something along those lines. No, they're not. It's 30 years since the original came out. You've got to give it a new like a paint. Give it a final chapter. And we're getting it. By the way, I never did watch that video. That's a whole other thing. I'll speak to you about that after this. Fuck it, we don't need to throw that in here. What's your thoughts though? Share them down below in the comments. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notifications. Same thing over on Twitch. Follow button, notifications button over there to see us live on a different platform. And until the next time, what's left to be said really is thank you for watching this. And bye-bye. Bye-bye.